Okay, give me just a second here. And pop out the chat. Yeah, and then boom. And good evening. I have a cat that's missed his jump and nearly clawed my leg apart. That's a joke. He was trying to do this. Yes. Ugh. Yeah. Buzzbud. You're a little early. I have stuff to do at the start of the stream. You know this. I'm putting you back down on the floor, buddy. There you go. Okay, what I got to do real quick is I got to go ahead and make a few posts in a few places. Let's see where all would be a good one. And let's try a couple. Yeah, here we go. Just getting some people out there, and hopefully I can get some few more people interested in the show. Now, one thing about the show tonight, and that's that I hit 750 subscribers on YouTube. Yep, 750. Right, is there a place here? Oh, Fuzzbutt. Oh. Yeah, this is what happens when I have an overly affectionate cat. He buries himself under my chin and what are you doing? Ack! Don't. Ah. Okay. What's the matter? What's the matter, huh? Now, since most of you are watching this after the fact, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like and the bell icon and like, subscribe, whatever the order is supposed to be for this stupid thing. And down you go, little buddy. Back on. Oh, let go of my shirt. Down you go. Okay. That's a bit much, Buzz. Okay. Now, tonight I'm going to be sculpting a Patreon sculpt. I don't know what I'm going to be sculpting, because I can't find my schedule and I forgot who's scheduled for tonight. Yeah. So, with any luck, my patron will show up over here in the chat, and we'll be able to get started with actually sculpting the figure that he wants, or she. I don't remember. Fortunately, if the patron doesn't show up, I do have plans on something I can do in the meantime. Also, no Fuzz. You've been up here a bit too much this evening. I can show off what I got done today for the friendly local gaming store paint competition. The figure that I drew is a Dracolisk. This is the critter. I've still got a lot to do on the wings, but I also have to paint the textured paint terrain a nice, even muddy color, kind of similar to the mud that's down here, and then lay down some, a little bit of flocking in some spots, a little bit of rubble and gravel in others, and all sorts of various shades of tufts of grass. But that's to come. Now, if there goes the fuzzbud into the window over there. Yep, that's the one that was sitting on my lap just a second ago, or on my shoulder. If the patron does not show, then we're probably going to... Oh, and here's the other one of the ninjas. Hello, Ra. If the patron does not show, big if, then what we're probably going to do is use this time to just discuss some things if anyone shows up over here. And we're going to talk about, sculpting and printing and sculpting for printing as opposed to sculpting for painting. What? Yes. You don't think I spoil these fur balls too much, do you? And of course, I got the 14-year-old back here. What? What? Boop. Okay. We can also do some discussion of painting techniques for FDM models and how they would be different than painting techniques for resin or pewter or plastic models. For all intents and purposes, painting a resin model is identical to painting a plastic or pewter or resin model. Yes, I said resin twice. Second time I meant things like... Things like War Machine, or Hordes, or whatever one this is from. Yeah. Do you mind, you little crazy kid? Oh, so he's swapping shoulders. I know you love me, little furball, but you know I am doing this for a reason. It's not for you. You probably can't hear him, but he's purring up a storm. You have no idea how difficult it is to sculpt with this. No, I just started. Let me get my glasses. I just started. I haven't even gotten my patron yet. My patron hasn't shown up. Oh, please. So I can read. No, it's... Do you mind? So yes, all three kitties on screen at once. I'm just trying to get my patron here, and like I said, what's going to happen is if the patron doesn't show up by about 8:15 Central U.S. time, I'm going to go ahead and... No, I haven't, because realistic animals are a lot more difficult than fantasy ones. Anyway, what I'm probably going to do is if he's not here by 8:15, then... Do you mind? Anyway, if he's not here by 8:15, I'm probably going to go ahead and just start a discussion of painting techniques that are good for FDM and not so good for FDM. Ralph? Hey, Ralph. Yeah, come on. Sit back, get off my shoulder. Hack. Yeah, get off my shoulder. There we go. And down. Get down. Ralph, down. You're gonna do it. You're gonna go. No, you're not. Down, Ralph. Oh, these little fur balls, I swear. Go on. Oh. So anyway, I guess I can do that while we're waiting on the Patron Sculpt. I'm going to bring over a painted FDM miniature. Okay. It's pretty well done, I dare say, both the printing and the paint job. And we're going to compare it to a painted resin figure. Alright. Now, obviously, the resin sculpt is actually from later in my time as a sculptor. And it's resin. So the overall quality of the print is better. The two figures we're going to be comparing, it's going to be red versus blue. Red came from my Creality CR10. Yes, from the CR10. Blue came from my Anycubic Photon. Now, let's go ahead and this is, in fact, an FDM print. This was printed on a filament printer. You can see the lines in places. I've seen far worse. But you'll also notice that it does have shading. It does have highlights picked out. It does have some paint styles put on it. Like it's got that fist shape in the crossbow. Meanwhile, the resin figure is almost literally indistinguishable from one that was cast from a mold. There's no lines that you can see. It's got details like the detailing of the ropes across the chest, the chainmail on the waist. You know, the wood grain in the shield is actually on the figure, not painted on. And in general, oh, don't do that. Yeah, there we go. And in general, it's got a little bit better edges, better seams, better borders between materials. You know, it's just in general a higher quality sculpt, a higher quality print. That's because resin isn't just lower layer heights. It's also smaller. It uses voxels instead of drawing a line. A good way to explain the difference is imagine drawing a line with one of those old big chisel tip markers. Then you go back behind it and you follow it along. You do a similar line with a Sharpie. And then you go in and do a similar line with a ballpoint pen. The they all can draw a simple curve, roughly equal, in terms of looking at it from just the outside. But if you're drawing an S with a little curlicue at the end, the big chisel tip marker will eventually blob into a single ball of ink. The Sharpie will take longer, but eventually will as well, but the ballpoint pen won't. Effectively, 0.4 millimeters is the width of the line drawn by the average consumer level plastic FDM printer. 0.4 millimeters. Which means there is a limit to how much detail you can squeeze in on the horizontal scale. For resin, instead of drawing lines, it uses basically a 2-bit bitmap image, which gives it what's called a voxel. X and Y is the size of the pixel on the screen, which, by the way, 99% of DLP machines use a screen about the same size as your typical, yeah, you can see the reflection, can't you? About the size of your typical smartphone. Which means that those pixels are 0.047 millimeters. You are literally drawing with 1/10 the size width of a line. Within the span of the line itself, you can get in further details. Then on top of that, you have, this was done at a layer height of 0.8 millimeter. This was done at a layer height of 0.03. Which means it's not 1/10 of the layer height. It's 1/25th, 1/30th of the layer height. So the end result is it came out enormously better. Now at that size, pardon me if I'm not being able to be heard very well, microphones over this way. At that size, you have a problem of, well, not problem, but you have it. Oh, there. Well, you saw this. This is a pretty good print. This was done on a machine 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. I did this on an FDM machine a year and a half ago. If it's sitting on a battlefield for Warhammer, or on the tabletop for D&D, most people are not going to be able to tell that that's an FDM print. They're going to say, oh, that's a painted model. And, you know, it's, even his top teeth are visible in the print. It came out really well. You can do really good job with resin. Not a single bit of sanding is done to this. Not a single bit. Now the thing is, the two most common basic techniques for painting a tabletop miniature, ones that I used on my Dracolisk for painting competition at a local game store coming up soon. And no, he's not done yet. He's far from done. Wash and dry brushing. Wash, well, there's two ways to do a wash. One, well, three really now. One, bam, done. This is Agrax Earthshade by Citadel. Other options would include war paint color. Blue. This is Blue Tone from their Quick Shade line. Yes, I'm pulling it from my paint hangers. And that's number one. Number two, yes, the contrast paints work as a wash. I've done at least one undead critter that I gave him a nice necrotic flesh green skin tone and then washed him with a flesh tone contrast paint. This one and this one can be done on the Ender 3. This one cannot. That one can only be done on a large format printer like the CR10. And maybe, there we go. No. Yeah. Anyway. So, the contrast paints, there's a way to simulate them, by the way. Anyway, the third version is you just take a paint. This is game color black. Take a paint or even an ink. Where it is. This is game ink black. Just remember, blue is ink, red is paint. And you thin it down with water, or water and matte medium, or water and whatever, or just simply whatever medium is required. For example, these watercolor paints are a gel medium. They don't like matte medium. And you paint it into the whatever you're doing to make your wash. You usually paint it into the crevices. Occasionally you'll paint it across the entire thing if you want to also kind of darken it overall, and then use your original base coat to bring back out the highlights. But that's a wash. The second kind is called a dry brush. You take a light color, don't thin it at all, wipe off most of the paint, and lightly brush it across the figure, and it's going to pick out the highlights as you do so. Now, both a wash and a highlight really exaggerate the layer lines in an FDM print. It catches all the detail, including the detail of those layer lines. So you have to use them sparingly. You can't use them as freely as you can on a regular miniature or a resin figure. Yay? So anyway, instead what you've got to do is you've got to use a variation on what's called layering. You can do a wash, but you've got to be very, very, very careful and only go into the deepest recesses. Then you take your paint, you thin it just a little bit. You thin it a little bit more than you do when putting on your base coat, but not quite a lot, because we don't want this to spread and sink. We want this to just kind of, and also you don't put as much on your brush. We just want it to kind of stain the upper surfaces just a little bit lighter, and we paint on several layers, and it builds up to that color. Okay? And it takes longer. It is more difficult, but the results are worth it. You end up with an FDM print that, unless you're examining it up close, you can't tell was an FDM print. And you're building the basis, the background, for a technique that can be used on the regular miniatures. Yes, this is... Oh, and I don't know if you've seen it or not yet, but I finished Morkrun Greathorn, the Minotaur Warlord. Once again, the color kind of shifts out because of the blue shine from the screen. But yeah, Morkrun Greathorn. Look at that. Look at that great axe. Yes, that counts as a great axe. that's, I hate to put it this way, but that's what 21 years of painting experience can do, even with 15 years of rust. It's not competition level. I would not enter that in a competition, not in a million years. But it's really good tabletop level. Now, if you are just painting for a tabletop army, an FDM print you can get away with dry brushing. But you've got to be a bit more heavy-handed with it. Leave more paint on the brush. Still not a lot. Not as much as you'd take off for a regular figure. Leave more paint on the brush and be a little bit lighter with it. Also, I'm going to show you the Ultra #1 top super secret to dry brushing. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. And that is makeup brushes. These are the ultra super secrets to dry brushing. This brush is about ready to go bye-bye. You can see how erratic and raggedy it's getting. It's still incredibly soft. Anyway, what you do is just simply, makeup brushes are incredibly soft. They've got a rounded top, and basically when you brush across to pick up those highlights, it ends up leaving behind paint in a gradation. Unlike a normal brush, which will leave behind almost an even layer, if it hits, it leaves it behind. With using a makeup brush to do your dry brushing, is actually going to cause only the highest layers will receive all of the, only the highest layers will reach here. The deepest layers will only get it from the tip. So you actually get more paint on the higher raised surfaces, so it fades more into your highlight when you use a makeup brush to do your dry brushing. Going back to FDM prints, don't. Using a makeup brush will be even worse at picking out those individual layer lines from the FDM prints. The standard plastic printer prints. Bringing it a little bit closer so you can see those layer lines. You can see what happens when you dry brush. It picks out all of those layer lines. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to the resin orc. Resin orc come on. The resin orc, you can use any technique you want on these things because they have a resolution of layers smaller than the pigment grain of many paint companies. Once in a blue moon, you'll stumble across a paint company who's got some really fine pigments in some of their paints. But most people still aren't going to be able to see it, even if when you dry brush the leg of your swashbuckler, you can see very faint stair stepping from the voxels. You'd have to be looking, and even then it'd have to be a very, very clean print. Even in resin, there are still occasionally prints that just kind of bloat just a little bit because you had a little bit too much exposure. And the ones that have underexposure are more likely to show the grit. Anyway, that's just a brief comparison of painting FDM versus resin. So, I'm wondering if anyone is going to be talking in here besides Wen. And I'm also wondering if my patron who's scheduled for tonight is showing up. It is 8:21 local time. 8:21 local time. Hello, Mark. You might be interested in this. I know you can't quite see what it is from back there. Boom, 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 boom. Working on a Dracolisk with some broken skeletons, broken statues rather, and a few stumps. I've got to paint the texture paint on the base, and add in some tufts and gravel and stuff, and I've got a bit more work to do on his wings. But yeah. Oh. So my patron has not showed up yet, Mark. So I was just discussing the difference between... Pull these guys back out, might as well just leave them on my desk. Between painting a resin figure and an FDM figure. Yes, this is FDM. I'm just gonna set them over here. Yeah, that's it. There. Thank you. Also, between last Sunday and today, I hit 754 subscribers, which means I'm that much closer to 1,000. Thank you, Mark. Okay. Now, yes, it's... To be fair, this is two totally different eras of my sculpting. This was when I started. This one. I didn't have the resin printer yet. I had just a basic orc shape, etc., etc. And this is from about a year later. This is from the Green Tide orc set. Message retracted? May I ask why your message was retracted? Well, I mean, you can see the difference, both in terms of this has more detail, and because it's resin, I can actually paint it to a better level. I mean, this guy, he's got bracers with knobs, a belt with a skull, boots, a tunic, a crossbow, and some bolts. He's got a belly plate with ropes holding it on. He's got shield, axe, bracers, chainmail, cuffs on his boots, spiky helmet, bridges in his chin, fangs, and yeah, this is a lot more detailed than this. Well, I'm keeping them over here so I can explain again. Also, this one's base is unpainted kitty litter. Unpainted kitty litter. This one's base is 3D printed with the edge of an old road, and then added on one of those tufts of fake grass. In fact, it's this set of tufts I'm trying to find for that. So the bases are even a generation different. Also, both were made on my old base mesh, not on the current one. Let's see what I have. Is it up here? Somewhere up here. Somewhere up there is the rest of my darn. See, right now, I have two primary sources of tufts. This from Army Painter, which, as you can see, is a nice rich forest green. Doesn't quite fit the dying swamp look. And this brown tufts from AK. And if you notice, the brown tufts are also in a random shape. They're not all round. They're mixed shapes. And they're kind of a good brown dead grass color. Okay? But if I could find those yellowy tufts, mix them in with the dead brown, because they're about the same height, just mix them in and just kind of mess them up together. Set them up around those statues, you know, the really tiny ones, several of them right around the feet, like it's growing grass from out around them. It would be really nice. Anyway, I also have this. This is a basing mix I made. Basically, it's gravel, rocks, and tufts of foliage. The basic stick is you kind of mix it up a little bit by hand. Put your basing adhesive or whatever you're going to use on the base. And then you just kind of take it and kind of scoop, and then shake it off. And of course there's no adhesive, so none of it's stuck, but that's basically what you do with this. I mixed a couple different sizes and colors of ballast, which is what they call the basic rock terrain from model trains. And Shinji's watching. Shinji's giving me nuzzles. Yeah, little, and then kitty kisses. Yeah, baby girl. So anyway, both of those were made on my old base mesh. I haven't made an orc yet on my new base mesh. Go figure. That'll be interesting. Screen actor cat? Why do you say screen actor cat? Because she's not as hyperactive and "Love me!" as the two ninjas are? Ah. She's 14. Yeah, they all need to. I don't have a Screen Actors Guild card yet. Really? I wonder, could I get my Screen Actors Guild card if I somehow manage to get paid by YouTube? I'm acting on a screen. Think that would work? Or does it have to be I have to read from a script on a television or movie production and not on a live broadcast from my office? Go figure. Anyway, this will probably end up being a short show since my patron didn't show up. I believe there's one other next week. And then I'll be getting back to the axolotl for Ithraval. Don't tell me you're one of the people who only watches my show for the kitties. Because you missed both Ralph and Carlton. Tell you what, let's get Carlton over here the old-fashioned way. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh badly. When I was a little bitty boy, my mama gave me a cute little toy. It had 5 bells on a string. She said it was my ding-a-ling-a-ling. My ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling. Oh, he's out cold. Never mind, Carlton's not coming. No, Carlton comes running when I start singing that stupid song. Normally. Anyway, on the flip side, my my Kickstarter for the Cyberpunk figures. No, I never did. He was 4 years old the first time he heard me sing that. And it was like, pounce, snuggle! I was like, anyway, my Kickstarter went live and made its goal already since the last broadcast. Oh, my ding-a-ling. Hey, Carlton, is that you or is that Ralph? Is that Carlton? My ding-a-ling, won't you play with my ding-a-ling? My ding-a-ling, won't you play with my ding-a-ling-a-ling? He woke up from a dead sleep because of the song. Didn't you, little buddy? Didn't you? When I was a little bitty boy, my grandmother gave me a cute little toy. Yeah. Yeah, Carlton's back. Now you can see right here just how sharp his claws are. But let me tell you something kind of funny. If I let him sit there and I try and you can prepare, when I try to take him off my shoulder, he becomes Velcro Kitty. Now, what's the big deal about that? He can grab my shirt without even touching my skin. And I didn't teach him that. He figured out how to do it all on his own. Didn't you, little buddy? Didn't you? Okay, I'm putting you down on the floor. There you go. Good boy. So yeah, Velcro Kitty. Huge sharp claws. Can grab my shirt without even beginning to touch my skin. All 3 of them do that, I should note. Anyway, so getting back to the show. One thing that I've been doing off and on for the past several weeks is I've been doing a channel called Old School RPG. Old School RPG is exactly what it sounds like. It's a show about tabletop role-playing games. Then and today. Looking back at then with a modern perspective, and looking at today with the memories of then. And I've done a show about a campaign setting that may have been forgotten by a lot of people. Spelljammer. And I was considering the next setting that I do a similar show on. How many of y'all have heard of Council of Worms? WYRMS. If you're watching this after the show, don't worry about putting it in here. Put it down there. Well, I already did a show about Spelljammer. I had one person watch it. One view. And it's not even me. Anyway, Council of Worms. The whole concept is you're playing dragons. One of the 5 good metallic, 5 evil chromatic, or 5 neutral gem dragons. And they did some really interesting mechanics juggling for that to work in 2nd edition D&D. Well, the link to Old School RPG is in the Discord. Discord link's down there, by the way. Actually, I have the link down here too. It says I've added a channel about old school tabletop gaming. Check it out click the link. Anyway, now one of the videos on there was before I got a new microphone. Yes, this is a new microphone. The old one was worse. Worse! I'm telling you, it was really, really bad. Really, really bad. It was snowball ice that went kaput. So that for a while there, sounded like this. Or worse. So, one of the videos on that channel isn't the best. Yes, I am wearing a short sleeve shirt. Yes, it is December 1st. That's because I didn't go out at all today. Spent today sculpting. One of the things I sculpted for today was a picture, well, not a picture, I sculpted a figure specifically for my new Patron, one of the figures for it. And that figure is right here. A female sniper. Got a communicator sensor thing. Got a sniper scope eye. And a sidearm, just in case, on her side. And the big gun. Yes, this is the render style I'm using now for presenting the STLs of the figures that are ready to sculpt. What do you think about it, Mark? When? Either one of you? Anyone else down there in the comments if you're watching after the fact? It's not that bad. Part of what you're seeing there is the fact that she's got a belt strap running right across it. You also got like a little fuzz mohawk going on because it's aimed at cyberpunk. And yes, it is. Alright, see you in a couple more, Mark. I might not be here, depending on how long you go, because if there's no sculpt, then really the times I'm doing this, I could be sculpting more cyberpunk minis for the Kickstarter, because I'm still trying to get them finished in time. So, let me go ahead and turn that off. Clicky. And once again, I'm going to try to get people in here. Copy that statement. I'm basically going to various that have that I'm on that have self-promotion areas on their Discords, because I don't want to do it in some place that doesn't welcome self-promotion. Yeah, that's what I thought. A-doo. And then go try here. Does this one have one? Discussions, other stuff. Thanks. Self-promotion. Yay, self-promotion. Clicky there. Next will come here. I do not see a self-promo in that one. That's about the only one I could find that I'm not in yet. And anyway, retirement. I'm not that old yet. I'm not 70. I just turned 52 weeks ago. And yes, it is a full-time thing for me. I would like to see... There's a couple companies I've sent some portfolios to. And I've gotten some interesting responses back, let's say. As in, not... It's crap, go away. But, not, oh my god, we need you now. Somewhere in between. I know what we could do right now. We could watch me go and download and install Sculptress for the first time and see what it's like. That's what we'll do for the next hour. Because I've never used Sculptress. Okay? So before I switch over to that window, I'm going to go ahead and bam. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here and... Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Bam. This is the web page for Pixelogic Sculptress. Yes, it's the same company that makes ZBrush, but it's not the same. And these are pictures of some things that were done with Sculptress. And it has here, introduction, 3D sculpting, 3D painting. Let's go ahead and check out first the requirements. Windows XP, Vista 7 or higher. 1 GHz Pentium 4 and above. 1 GB of RAM. OpenGL 2.0 support. 1024 by 768 and recommended graphics tablet. I think I meet them. Just a little bit. Free download. Choose an operating system. It's no longer being developed as considered a legacy application. Current version was released in 2011. I agree. Windows. First name, William. And let's do the autofill. Bing. There we go. And then because my email address is open, I'll be using it for hobbyist. I do not want to receive any of those up because I already do. Submit. And download. Download. Okay, it's not, the button's not working. So I'm going to go to YouTube or Yahoo Mail. There we go. I did not subscribe to the newsletter. Alright, this is not spam. Go back to inbox and download Windows here. There we go. Save file. And let's go and save it there. It doesn't matter. And then go back here. And then let's just go to Google to make it blank. And now, bang, let's run this installer. Yes, I want that app to make changes to my device. Please wait while the installer initializes. This can take a minute or two. Okay. Welcome to Sculpt Alpha 6. Guide to installation, blah, blah, blah. Next, I accept the license. Let's just... Nope, it doesn't take control of there or anything. Next. Installation directory, yes, we want to keep it on the C drive. This is an SSD, and it will run much faster. Next. And next. It may take several minutes. Okay, it didn't. Creating an uninstaller. And launch Sculptris Alpha 6 now. Click. Now, one thing about Sculptris is that a lot of the functionality of Sculptris that was unique to it has been incorporated into more recent versions of ZBrush. And hello, Steep Tea! And let's see what we got here. We're just going to... I've never actually done Sculptris before. I'm just testing it out here. Alright. As you can see, it's like pulling out. Now, I'm trying to see... These are various materials you can use. This is very similar to the standard ZBrush material. This is supposed to be a skin material, but I don't know how. And this is probably closer to materials I'm used to working with. Now you notice the circle that shows you where the brush is deforming along the surface of the mesh. That's because it's only showing you what will be affected. And as you alter the surface, you're altering the area that's going to affect it. I can pull out and turn this into kind of a critter mouth, just with some quick strokes. Just very simple, basic, almost a mouth. Let's see, does it have... Okay, hitting the right bracket makes it bigger and the left bracket makes it smaller. So let's go ahead and pull this out. The whole thing, let's pull this out a little bit. And it's looking more and more like a snout. And that's just a few strokes in just a few seconds using the mouse, not even using my graphics tablet. And then we can just go ahead and just like say, let's shrink this a little bit and bring it like that. And what we're going to do here is we're going to create ourselves some cheeks. I'm going to hold the Alt key and see what happens, and yep, it digs in when you hold down the Alt key. That's a kind of a standard thing from ZBrush. And then okay. Now let's just kind of change the shape here a little bit. Bring this out to the back and up top, and then a lot down the back. And bring this down, kind of down a little bit, chubby out those cheeks a bit. What happens if I hit? Yep, hold down the Shift key smooths it out. Kind of blends out some of those strokes. Just literally, what, 5-10 minutes worth of fiddling around, and I've got a nice little grubbly gremlin-y head. What do you think of that, Steve? Just 5 minutes, just literally just playing around, dragging around the mouse on a sphere. Now that was with their draw tool. They have a crease tool, a rotate, scale, flatten, grab, inflate, pinch, and smooth. Let's see what happens with the grab. Yep. And we have just created ourselves the basis for a pair of ears. Let's make it bigger. And we're going to pull it down here to make it a bit more just a few minutes. Alright. And then grab the corner of the eye and bring it forward. And then bring them out. Well, let's shrink this a little bit first. Yeah. And that's using a mouse, not a tablet, in just a few minutes, having never used the program before. Now let's see what happens if we go to take that crease and draw it down here, back and forth a couple times to make that mouth a little bit tighter. Then we go to inflate, and we're going to kind of inflate the upper lip a bit. There we go. Scroll wheel lets it move, and then we're going to inflate down here. So that's what Sculptress can do in literally having had it for 10 minutes. That was a lot quicker than I expected it to be. Changes will be lost. Okay, okay. Yeah. And Sculptress is free. If you don't have a sculpting program to play around with or to work with to sculpt on your own figures, there's also Blender, but Blender's a bit more to get into. It's a little bit it takes a little bit longer to just drop into and sculpt because you've got to have base geometry that you've made, and it's a bit more complex UI. And how are you doing, Steve? Be very, very quiet. He's making a cup of tea. Anyway, it is 5 till 9. My patron never showed. So, what's probably going to happen is I'm waiting for Steve to let me know how he's doing. Once Steve lets me know how he's doing, I'm probably going to go ahead and say goodnight. Because the time that I'm broadcasting, I could be sculpting more, female snipers. And other figures like that. Or I could be painting the now dry texture paint on the base of this figure. The expanded base of this figure. I just noticed I really need to change the little red guy right here. Because that figure no longer represents what I do as a sculptor. If you're seeing this after I change the little red guy right here, then assume that what you're seeing there isn't what's down there, but is instead a red figure of a reptilian figure kind of doing this with a sword in his hand. Now, what's funny is she sleeps, I start petting her. The tip of that tail starts curling and twitching, and she goes deeper asleep. Mm-hmm. And then she just buries her head. She will grab the tip of her tail to keep it from showing she's happy. She doesn't like dignity. She grabs the tip of her tail and buries her head. You know, right, little baby girl. Anyway, it's 9 o'clock. An hour of broadcasting. We discussed the difference between painting an FDM, plastic printed miniature, and painting a resin printed miniature. Yes, I sculpted both of these orcs and printed both of them. This one was printed on an FDM printer, the CR10. This one was printed on a resin printer, the Anycubic Photon. So it's red versus blue. Anyway, we discussed that. We mentioned my other channel, which is linked down below, Old School RPG. It's one channel that talks about old school gaming. Made reference to, excuse me. Why did it suddenly... Come on. Refocus. Thank you. Refocus. We have not made reference to what my plans are after the Cyberpunk Kickstarter is finished, and that is I'm going to start work on a game that I have no idea what to call it. Basically, on the average game, each player has 2 avatars. These avatars each have 10 of their minions. Minions are standardized. Hephaestus might have Cyclops, and this this guy over here might have Men-at-Arms, but they'd both be brawler-type minions and have identical stats. The avatars themselves would have unique stats. But so that way, everyone basically has 22 figures. The avatars are balanced against each other. The minions are balanced against each other. So points values aren't a thing. And every time a minion dies, he goes into a holding box. He stays there for 1 round, and then comes back on the board in his spawn zone. If an avatar dies, their minions stay on the board, but do not respawn. So a boring, basic tournament battle would be 2 avatars and their 20 total minions. Boom. Probably with, it'd be geared towards having a lot of terrain, a lot of more of a winding labyrinth conflict, and the more enemies you kill, the more frequently you can use your ultimate attack. So, yeah. But any two avatars would be balanced theoretically against any other 2. Now there might be some that would just happen to synergize, like this guy gets stronger and just grows bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger instead of having an ultimate attack. This guy slows the enemy down. So he slows them down, so this guy keeps getting kills and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the minions keep cycling through, and yeah. There'll probably be only 3 stages to the tentacle guy. Anyway, I still don't know what to call it, but I've even got a concept for the setting. The gods realize they have reached a point they are no longer totally dependent upon mortal worship. It helps a little, but now they can live on their own. With all of their cosmic power. So, what do? 3 factions emerge. The Guardians say, "We were spawned from mortal belief. We were created to guard them, and so guard them we still shall." The Revelers, they gave birth to us, but now I say we do what the heck we feel like. Party! Like, perfect example of a Guardian would be Thor, while a Reveler would be Dionysus. But there's a 3rd faction. Devourers. They believe that now that they have all the power, it's time to either destroy humanity and the world, or turn it into their corrupted evil plaything. As an example, a really good example of a devourer would be, well, Grendel, who becomes the god of trolls. And hello, Carlton. Ugh. Steve, if you had been here at the beginning of the show, you'd have seen all 3 of them on the screen at once. This guy was on the bookshelf back there. I had Ralph draped over my shoulder front to back instead of back to front. And of course, Shinji was napping too. And there goes that little crooktail. Carlton, little buddy. No. I'm going to put you back down on the floor now. I got to sign out, okay? Yeah. Okay. Now, it is 9:02. I'm going to go ahead and do my usual sign-out shtick, which is, I hold my hand up like this. I count down from 5 to 1. When I get to 1, I go, oh wait, no. I say something goofy, stupid, or pithy, and then go, and when I see on the screen this, I know that I've caught up with the automatic buffering delay that YouTube has, and I can go ahead and sign out. Okay? So what that's going to be is, let me move the mouse in the right place. That's going to be a 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. One thing I dislike about Star Wars, the movies, is the same thing I dislike about the 22 or so Transformers cartoons. with a huge, potentially rich storytelling world, they always focus on the same small core group of characters.